do for real.
Lift up holy hands, our hearts in one accord.
So worthy, It is a deep appreciation for the Lord. You know, and if you don't have a deep love for the Lord, you need to find it.
My God, my God.
Come on, it's more than just a rule. It's more than just a regulation. It's more than these things. That deep love for God that goes beyond anything. You know, I asked my wife this morning, I said, could you take my picture so I can post it of this guitar? I miss my sister. She bought that for me last year for Christmas. I miss my sister. I have a deep love for my sister. But it's nothing like I have for the Lord. It goes beyond. Come on. It goes beyond. And I want us to continue to pray for Joe tonight. This morning, he needs healing in his body. Amen. I spoke to, I haven't told you this yet, but I was speaking to this friend of mine, Arvel. He taught us, he was the one that came up with Call in the Garage Mayberry in Phoenix. He was a body man that had gotten severely hurt and was forced to retire. You can play. And I was talking with him on the phone, and he told me, he said, you know, you're all about the only thing I have left besides my grandchildren. His daughter died. She asphyxiated on her vomit in her sleep. His wife died of cancer. And he said, you know, I'm Stouch Baptist. I've been Stouch Baptist. I don't know what that means all my life. And he said, Dawn, he said, something happened that I don't understand. He said, you know, he said, Sudie had lung cancer, and he said, you don't realize that in Phoenix, you never said anything. You never invited us to church. Oh, he said, we sang some hymnals together, and he said, we lived our own life. He said, but when we moved back to Poplar Bluff, he said, them thoughts kept going over in our minds about living for the Lord. And so we went back to church. Then he said, we went every time the doors were open. He said, I sing in the choir and I play my old guitar. And he's 87 years old now. And he said, Sudie, when she was failing, he said she started drawing close to the Lord. He said she was praying all the time. Then he said, I didn't think too much of it. He said, but I remember you giving us a Bible study about tongues and receiving the Holy Ghost. And he said something weird happened. He said she's laying there in the hospital bed. And he said she would just pray real quiet. And he said, I'm asking because I think she went out of her mind. He said, except it gave me chills up and down my spine. He said, I think Sudie went out of her mind. He said, just before she died, he said, while she was praying, he said, she didn't no longer know English. All because she could do is speak in this language I couldn't understand. And he said, I would talk to her and she would just talk in this language. I'd ask her, and he said she could respond to me, and I could ask her what she wanted to eat. He said, but all she would do is keep going. And he said the next day, he said, all day long, she could just speak in this language. He said, I knew she was out of her mind. And he said, then the night came, and I sat by her bed, and he said all she would do, and he said, I knew she was out of her mind except this feeling that I had.
Right. Come on.
And he said all of a sudden the language stopped, and the tears stopped rolling down her face, and he said, I knew she was gone. But he said, I didn't have the strength to accept it. He said, I just let it go till about 6 o'clock in the morning. And he said, can you tell me if tongues are real? He said, can you really tell me that the Holy Ghost is real? He said, I'm telling you she was out of her mind, but at the same time, He said, something tells me she got something. And he goes, I need to know what that is. That's all that matters in life, is God.
That's right.
That's all that matters. Your money doesn't matter. Your failures don't matter. Nothing matters but that deep love for God. If there's anything I want to do, is I want to be with the Lord. And that deep love for God. Man, I want to pray for Brother Joe this morning. God touches him. I ask you to pray for me. I was seeking the Lord and asking the Lord if men really should do house chores. And the Lord was speaking to me, and I was vacuuming last Sunday after church and getting ready for the Super Bowl, and the Lord spoke to me again and said, son, that's not for men. I said, Lord, can you prove it to me? And all of a sudden I got a horrible sharp pain in my elbow. The snap was so loud I heard it above the vacuum cleaner.